G'day guys, how are we doing? Welcome to the weekly roundup. It is Friday, July 12th, 2024. Firstly, apologies that I haven't been on for a couple of weeks. Just had a little bit going on outside of the channel here with work and family, all the rest of it. But I am back and I'll do my best to be on every week ongoing. We'll see how we go. So much going on. It's going to take me a little while to get through. This could be our longest episode ever because there's so much going on for the Aussies here and overseas, as well as obviously the international, the scene as well. Let's start this week with the No Limit pay-per-view that took place in Wollongong on Wednesday night. Sam Goodman improving to 19-0 with a 12-round decision over Chen Choi Warawat from Thailand. Warawat dropped to 25-1-1. The scoreline 119, 109, 117, 113, and 117, 111. I'll go through the rest of the card and then I'll come back to the main fights. We had Liam Wilson 14-3. He improved to with an 8-round knockout of Yusuf Dib, and what a knockout it was. Dib dropped to 21-2. This is probably a fight I don't really want to mention too much, but Curtis Scott, a first round, is it a stoppage? Is it a knockout? I don't even know what to call it, but a first round ending against Barry Hall. Not something I want to dwell on too much, but again, I'll come back to that. Curtis Scott improving to 3-0. Barry Hall drops to 0-2-1. Brandon Grush with another great knockout. He improved to 3-0 with a third round knockout of John Mailer, 6-1. Liam Taliva got back on the winners list with a 6th-round decision over Johan Lind. Lind dropped to 4-2-1. The scoreline, the scorecard, 60-54 times through. Times 3, I'm sorry. And the other fights on the card, Monir Fathi improved to 7-1. Good to see him back with a first-round knockout of Anton Markovic, and what a knockout that was. Markovic drops to 5-2. Billy Pokinghorn improved to 2-0, looking very good at the moment. The former Commonwealth Games representative. He won a 5-round decision over Jordan Casaliris, who dropped to 1-3-1. The score cards there, 50-43, 49-45, and 49-44. Chanel Dargan improved to 5-1-2 with a 5-round decision over Panaporn Kaulpa Wong, and I hope I got that right. She dropped to 4-2. Scorecards 50-45 on all 3 scorecards. In the other two fights on that card, Amber Amelia improved to 5-3. The Pocket Rocket with a 6-round decision over Connie Brown, who dropped to 2-1-1. Scorecards 59-55 times 3. And Alexandro Agrippa made his pro debut with a 4-round decision over John Wheatra. So just quickly, a bit of an overview of the fights. Look, I thought Sam Goodman was very solid in his win over Warawat, but in my humble opinion, not overly convincing, if I'm being completely honest. I thought Sam got hit a little bit too much for me. But first of all, don't get me wrong, Warawat, a very accomplished fighter, relatively unproven outside of his native Thailand. And I can probably see why they chose him. Similar style to Naoya Inoue, maybe a lesser version, of course, but I can see why they chose him. But I was just a little bit concerned that Sam did get hit a little bit too much. I know he had the injured hand, which might put in jeopardy that Inoue fight next. But I think he needs to tidy up his defence a little bit. Maybe stop getting drawn into the phone booth when he really doesn't need to. I think he's got the tools at the level, but no, in a way, it's a completely different story. So best of luck to Sam. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that broken hand or supposedly broken hand. We'll have to see how that comes out with scans and everything else. Speaking of Naoya Inoue, now he's going to fight TJ Doheny in September in Japan. Now, if you remember TJ Doheny, former world champion, Irish, Australian, really a credentialed fighter over the years, bit of a journeyman these days. He actually dropped a decision to Sam Goodman, was it last year or the year before? Now gets a world title shot ahead of Sam Goodman. I'm still trying to get my head around it. He's coming off 3 wins, is Doheny, all in Japan. So I'm sure they've probably geared him as maybe an in-between, tune-up, keep busy fight for Naoya Inoue while he awaits Goodman and maybe 1 or 2 others. But that fight will take place in September in Japan. So best of luck to Sam. He's going to need it. On to the rest of the card there, all the other main fights there. Liam Wilson What a knockout over Yusuf Dib. I thought the fight was semi-competitive for the majority of it. I think I had Liam Wilson maybe 5 rounds or 2 in front. But Yusuf Dib did come on in those middle rounds. And I thought he was giving Liam Wilson all he could handle. I think it might have been in the 6th round. And Liam looked to be sort of struggling. His open mouth was seeming to be gassed, taking some shots. But Yusuf Dib just didn't really have the power to really get Liam Wilson's attention and maybe possibly get him out of there. And I thought it was a great statement win from Liam Wilson. He's been trying to get that George Kambosos fight. He was talking up in all the lead up to the fight and especially afterwards. But I'm not quite sure Liam is on, in the thoughts of George Kambosos' camp, because just announced today is a possibility that, yes, George Kambosos is looking for an all-Aussie super fight or blockbuster, whatever you want to call it. But it is another Australian in Liam Paro, the newly crowned IBF 140-pound champion, being proposed for November on the Matchroom card that will take place later in the year. So what a massive fight that would be. Now, I've been pretty vocal saying that I would strongly doubt that Kambosos and Paro would happen because they are friends, they've got some history, everything else, but there's world titles on the line, lots of money on the line, so I totally get it. And if the guys do fight in November, I think it'll be a great fight. Sure, they will put aside all the friendship and all the rest of it and be respectful towards each other. And I think that would be one hell of a fight. And even though I'm a Liam Wilson fan, I think Kambosos versus Liam Paro is the far bigger fight, far more appealing fight. And what a fight that would be, most likely up in probably far north Queensland, or worst case maybe in Brisbane. So Liam Wilson's going to have to go back to the drawing board, I think. He's got some options in front of him. It's good just to see he's on the winners list again. Maybe it could be, if he's talking about all Australian fights, maybe it could be the winner of the Jalen Tate and Ibrahim Bella fight that takes place next week. So some options for him. Look, I think he would probably have to maybe look at the Bala Tate winner, because he's calling out Kambosos, who's the far bigger name. So maybe Wilson has to do the same and maybe just drop back a cog and go for the next biggest name behind George Kambosos with one of those guys. So some good matchups to be made in Australia. Now, just quickly on the Barry Hall and Curtis Scott fight. Again, I don't want to dwell on it too much. The only thing I'm going to say about that is everyone that's out there saying that Mike Tyson will give Jake Paul one hell of a fight and possibly beat Jake Paul, take note of this fight. Barry Hall looked great in training, probably the best condition he's ever been in physically, 47 years of age, 21 years the older man than Curtis Scott. But Curtis Scott, who mightn't be as experienced or talented or big or whatever you might want to call it, just had youth. He had speed, he had power and the will. And Barry Hall just had absolutely nothing. And he looked like a shell of not just a fighter, but shell of an athlete. And it was just a bad ending and a bad look for all concerned. Fighters, promoters, everyone, the broadcaster, everyone. So, as I said, for everyone that's saying that Mike Tyson looks fantastic on the pads in training, looks in the best condition he's been in for how many years since he stopped fighting, just take note of that it's not all about how they look physically and how they even look in training, because when the bell rings, it's a completely different ball game. So sad way for Barry Hall to go out. Didn't get a win in his pro career. Curtis Scott, I know they're probably going to talk him up as the next big thing, but a long way to go. But not a bad card. If you did buy it, of course, $60. Take it or leave it if you wanted to buy it. I did do the watch along. We had 17,000 people watch the broadcast, which was great. Granted, probably 16,500 of those people jumped on for the free live stream, which wasn't coming, of course, but either way, it was great to have some eyeballs on our watch along. And we will be back for the next Premier Boxing Series next week. But I thought not a bad card. Was it worth $60? Absolutely not. But I thought just for a Wednesday night fight night, pretty solid. On to some other news. Speaking of No Limit and pay-per-views, Nikita Tszyu has announced his next fight will be against Koen Mazudia. It'll be in August. Haven't got a lot of details to hand yet, but it will be for the Australian 154-pound title. It will be a No Limit pay-per-view. And there are rumours, I think it's not really rumours anymore, it has sort of been announced on their Instagram or social media accounts, whatever it might be, but Michael Zarafa and Tommy Brown will fight on that card as well. Now, I don't know whether to laugh or cry about that fight, to be honest. Tommy Brown has been retired for I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years now. If you remember him, he got absolutely iced in 2 rounds by Anthony Mundine, probably about 10 years ago. So I'm not quite sure where they've dug him up from. Again, look, it was a solid fighter back in the day, but well and truly past his peak. The only thing I can maybe think of is that No Limit have taken Michael Zarafa under the wing. I did hear that maybe it was a 3-fight deal or at least 2-fight deal where they'll be looking to get Michael Zarafa a win, and who better than a journeyman with a bit of a name who might be able to put up a fight for 2 or 3 rounds, get an easy kill, and then maybe step into a Nikita fight either next or down the track. That's probably the only thing I'm probably looking at for the only reason they would put this fight on with No Limit. But I've got to say, in my opinion, again, not doing themselves earning themselves a lot of brownie points in my view, and I'm sure a lot of your views out there were putting that fight on there, and I can just see the build up to it. Michael Zarafa back, and Tommy Brown did this, and Tommy Brown did that. Hey, we're talking 10 to 15 years ago, coming out of retirement. And Michael Zarafa coming off that second round knockout loss to Erislandy Lara. I know they're going to try and build it up for that future Nikita Tszyu fight. I can't wait to see George Rose spin whatever spiel he has to put out there to get everyone on the hook. But I don't care. I'll still buy the pay-per-view. I want to see Nikita and Missouri. I think it'll be a good fight. I certainly won't be buying it, though, for the Michael Zarafa and Tommy Brown fight, I can assure you. But that is the case at the moment. Nikita Tszyu, Kyle Missouri, August for the Australian 154-pound title, and Michael Zarafa on the undercard against Tommy Brown. On to this week's fight. Sorry, that just lost my train of thought there. Skye Nicholson will be in action this weekend in defence of her WBC 126-pound title. She's fighting at the Palms Casino in Las Vegas. Sorry, I take that back. No, it is not. It is in Philadelphia. Sorry, I've got another fight on my mind that I'll get to in a second. But it is at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia on the Jaron Boots Ennis and Roman Villa card. Sorry, I'll take that back again. The Jared Boots Ennis and David Amadezian card. I'm just looking at who they fought last time. Apologies about that. It's been a long week. So Skye Nicholson, 10-0. She'll fight Dana Vargas, who's 19-1. Very deceptive record, I will say. The typical opponent Skye seems to have been fighting lately. Just the walk up, slow on by foot, slow by or with hands. Custom made for Skye. I think she'll win by a shutout by probably a 10-round decision. But that's for that WBC 126-pound title. Nicholson coming off a 10-round win over Sarah Marford in April of this year, and Vargas with an 8-round decision over Marcela Nieto in June of this year. So getting to the main fight on that card, Jaron Ennis, 31-0 against David Amadezian, 30 wins, 4 losses, and a draw. That's for the IBF 147-pound title. Jaron Boots Ennis coming off a 10-round knockout win over Roman Villa back in July 23. So hasn't fought for a year. Amadezian coming off a 4th-round stoppage of Sergey Ambromo. That was in December of 2023. And again, that's at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. And that will be on DAZN, so check your guides for that one. Big news on the Australian scene. Again, it's only come to hand in the last couple of days. Another Aussie is going to be fighting for a world title, and he could be the fastest ever Aussie fighter to win, or on track to win a world title. I'm talking about Alex Winwood. The minimum weight sensation from Western Australia. He's only 4-0. Now he's going to take on, now just bear with me with his name, Thamanoon Neayom Trong. Now I'm probably 100% sure I've got that wrong. I'll say that again. Thamanoon Neayom Trong. 24-0 with 9 knockouts. He's the WBA minimum weight champion. That's 105 pounds or 47.7 kilograms. That fight will take place in September on the 7th at the HBF Stadium in Perth. Now, I'm pretty sure this might be a Premier Boxing Series event, by the way, but I'll look into it a little bit further. Winwood coming off a 10-round decision over Chris Ganoza back in December of 23. Ni Yom Trong with a 12-round decision over Chaofon Moonsry back in July 22. So hasn't fought for 2 years. So a fantastic opportunity for Alex Winwood to become the fastest to a world title ever. Coming out of Australia. Now, a little bit about Neom Trong. Again, I apologise if I've got that wrong. From Thailand, won the title in 2016 and has defended it 11 times. So no slouch is the Thai, and it's going to be a mammoth effort for Alex Winwood. The fact he hasn't fought for 2 years, I think, gives Alex a big chance. Again, 4-0 up against 24-0. So that is September 7th in Perth. So can't wait for that one. Another big fight that's been announced this week. Aussie Blake Caparello, 32-4-1. He'll face a big challenge against Kiwi David Nyika. He's 9-0. Very, very good prospect out of New Zealand. That's on September the 14th in Auckland, New Zealand, promoted by Duco. Will be on DAZN. Nyika coming off a 4th-round knockout of Michael Seitz back in May of this year, and Caparello with an upset 5th-round knockout of Simone Federici. That was in February of this year. So all the best to Blake Caparello in that. Good to see the Aussies and the Kiwis in a big fight. Should be a big one. All right, on to the world scene. Shakur Stevenson last weekend improved to 22-0 with a 12-round decision over Arta Haratanyan, who dropped to 12-2. The scorecards 116-112, 118-110, and 119-109. There is talk that will be Tank Davis next. Of course, there has been talk that Davis and Lomachenko would be next, but the talk is that Davis and Stevenson will fight. Lomachenko will take step-aside money, and that fight will take place in the first half of 2025. That's Lomachenko against the winner. Stevenson, pretty oddly in my opinion, rejected a guaranteed $15 million 5-fight deal with Top Rank, and he looks to be probably most likely signing with Mayweather Promotions, although Matchroom and Golden Boy have been mentioned as well. But at this stage, looks like he will sign with Mayweather Promotions, which to me is a little bit puzzling why he would leave Top Rank to go to Mayweather Promotions, who don't really do a lot of promotions. I would have thought maybe a switch to Matchroom might have been a good decision. But I'm sure he's done his due diligence and has made the right call. On that card as well, Robson Conceição with an upset 12-round and controversial 12-round decision win over Sharky Foster. He improved to 19-2-1. I think it was his 3rd attempt at a world title. Sharky Foster dropped to 22-3. That was for the WBC 130-pound title. The scorecards 116-112 and 115-113 for Conceição and 116-112 for Foster. In my opinion, Foster very, very unlucky to lose that fight. Conceição, look, he was the aggressor, but didn't really do any damage, in my opinion, and I thought Foster was a clear winner. But judging these days, I think we just give up trying to make any sense of it. And also on that card, Keyshawn Davis, in what I thought was an unconvincing 10-round decision win over Miguel Maduano. Davis he improved to 11-0. Maduano dropped to 31-3. The scorecard's 99-91 times 3. And again, I wasn't overly impressed with Keyshawn Davis. I think he's got a little way to go before we can probably put him in the ballpark of fighting some of those elite 135-pounders. Also, last weekend, you could probably consider it an upset. Fernando Martinez won a 12-round decision over Kazuto Ioka for the unified WBA and IBF 115-pound titles. That was in Japan. Martinez improved to 17-0. Ioka dropped to 31-3-1. The scorecards 116-112. 117-111 and 120-108, which I cannot see that judge how we didn't give Ioka a round. But again, judges these days, I give up. All right, on to this weekend. Yanibek Alimkhanuly, 15-0, will defend his middleweight titles against the Russian Kiwi Andrei Mikhailovich. Very entertaining guy is Mikhailovich inside and outside the ring. He's 21-0. That fight will take place at the Palms Casino in Las Vegas. It will be on ESPN here in Australia as well, so check out the Foxtel guides. I think it might even start at 9 a.m. Sunday morning, Eastern time. So should be a ripper fight while it lasts. I'm not giving Mikhailovich much of a chance, but if you're in the fight, you're always a chance to win. So he's coming off the first round stoppage of Les Sherrington, strictly a tune-up fight. That was back in April of this year. Janabek with a 6th round demolition of Vincenzo Gualtieri. That was in October of 2023. So it should be, again, entertaining while it lasts. I'm picking probably Alim Kanuli by maybe 4th or 5th round knockout, but all the best to Mikhailovic anyway. As I said, he's entertaining inside and outside the ring, so I'm sure he'll go over there and give it everything he's got. Another big fight that's been announced, Virgil Ortiz, 21-0. He's going to fight Sergey Bohachuk, who's 24-1. For his WBC interim 154-pound title. That'll take place on August the 10th at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. That fight will take place a week after the Riyadh card in Los Angeles featuring Crawford and Madrimov. Ortiz coming off a first-round knockout of Thomas Dolami, I think that's how you pronounce it, back in April. Before that, he also had another first-round knockout of Frederick Lawson. That was back in January of 2024. Bohachuk coming off a very impressive 12-round decision over Brian Mendoza in March on the Zoo Fundora card. So it should be a very, very good fight. That one this weekend, Chocolatito Gonzalez makes his comeback. The super flyweight legend, 51-4. He's going to have his comeback fight against Robert Barrera, who's 27-5. That's in Managua, Nicaragua. There's a lot of guas in there. Chocolatito coming off a 12-round decision loss back in December of 2022, so 18 months out of the ring, or 19 months, against Juan Francisco Estrada. So hopefully we see Gonzalez with an impressive win there, and who knows, we might get a fight with him either against Bam Rodriguez, or maybe he goes up to 118 and we get a fight with one of the Japanese champions there. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And just the last one to finish on. We've all been talking about Canelo Alvarez's opponent for his September date. It's looking like it's going to be either Edwin Berlanga or Chris Eubank Jr. So Eubank Jr. has just signed a multi-year deal with with Boxer. He's 33-3, by the way, 24 knockouts. So he's just signed that deal with Boxer. So that's probably maybe a bit of a springboard for him to maybe get the Canelo fight. I can't really see the sense in that fight, if I'm being honest, just on the surface. But having said that, the UFC have a big fight in Vegas that weekend. It's Mexican Independence Day. It's normal. I think it's September the 14th. That is the date that Canelo had penciled in. Now with that big UFC card at the Las Vegas Sphere, there is talk that maybe the Eubank fight will be in England. So, and I think the English fans would definitely eat that up. The only issue I've got with that one is that if it is the Mexican Independence Day weekend, I'm not quite sure what relevance it has to the Mexicans, who can't obviously go to the fight, or they can, but normally they all flock to Las Vegas for that event. And it's only a week before the Joshua and Dubois fight. So, yeah, and when it comes to pay-per-view as well, they'll obviously still be competing with that UFC event in Las Vegas. So, some interesting times for Canelo, what he decides to do. My gut feeling says it will be Eubank. But I'm not quite sure it will be in England. I still think maybe he might fight in Vegas and go head-to-head with the UFC. But we will see, most likely in the next week or two. We're only, about 8 weeks away from that date. So we all await with bated breath. I know we all want to see him fight Benavidez. I think, look, if I was going to just go for what I think would be the more competitive fight or entertaining fight, I've probably got to say Berlanga. So maybe they could even do Canelo Berlanga in New York and get right away from that Las Vegas scene. It would obviously be maybe a different time zone as well. Of course, New York is 3 hours. I think they're ahead of the Las Vegas Pacific time. So I'm sure they'll work it all out. But anyway, we'll wait to see what happens with Canelo's big fight, and maybe we get that Benavidez fight down the track. All right, guys, that was a long way to one today or this week. I hope you have a great weekend watching the boxing. So much to see. We've got fights on Foxtel here in Australia, ESPN, and also DAZN. And then during the week, we also have the Premier Boxing Series, which I'll report on next week as well. So going to be a great weekend for probably the next few weekends. Lots of big events. So I hope you have a good one, and we'll catch you next week.